Hey everyone, Tom Caffarella here from Ocean City Development. For those of you who are expecting a live strategy session, my guest Mike has some technical difficulties right now. So we're going to switch it up. If he is able to jump on the call, we're going to get him live on the call. If not, we're going to talk about how to rehab a property in 5 simple steps, and we're going to hit on anything that anybody else needs. So any questions, any concerns that anybody has, any questions that anybody has, feel free to ask. So step number 1 when it comes to rehabbing a property is to determine the level of renovation. And one of the biggest mistakes that newer investors make, and that we actually made on our first fix and flip property, is to over renovate the house. So the first deal that you ever do, it's your baby. It's the property that you want to show off to each and every person, your family, your friends, anyone that will listen. But the reality of the matter is that you have to renovate it to the level of which it makes sense to sell in that particular neighborhood. And so how do we do that? It's very, very simple. What we want to do is we want to visit as many open houses in that neighborhood as possible, right? So you want to see what's selling in this current market. And what's selling, by the way, in this current market doesn't have anything to do with what was selling 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, right? So as of July 2017, a lot of us, I know there's a couple of real estate agents that are on the call right now. You know that in a lot of our markets right now, absolute garbage is selling for top dollar. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to over renovate a property in a market that you don't need to. Now, going back to 2008, 2009, 2010, when there wasn't a lot of inventory that was currently on the market, when there was a lot of inventory and buyers could be picky, you did definitely have to renovate everything, to top level. But in today's market, what you want to do is you want to go around to other open houses, see what's selling, and then get your product up to that level and that level only. Because anything above that level, once you kind of cross that threshold for any particular market, you're not going to make any more money and you're not going to get anything over that, especially in today's market. So in today's market right now, the biggest issue that we have is that buyers in general are priced out of the market. And a buyer in this market in general would rather have a $300,000 property at a 7 or 8 out of 10 condition than have a 10 out of 10 property at 325. So keep that in mind, but definitely go around to check out what else is selling in your particular market and don't go over that. So for those of you who are on the line right now, let me know where you're geographically located. I know I always have some people across the country, so let me know what particular market you're in and let me know what you're seeing. What you're seeing as far as what's selling in your market right now. Do you need to renovate your property to a 10 out of 10 condition, or are you okay with a 6 or a 7 or 8 out of 10 condition in your particular market? So step 1 again is to determine the level of renovation and not to go above that level of renovation. Step number 2 is to put together a scope of work. So this is incredibly important that you put together every single item that needs to be done for that particular renovation. And you want to get completely granular with every single thing that you're putting down there. So you don't want to leave out anything, because anything that you leave out at the end of the day, a contractor is going to come back to you, point out the fact that it's not on there, and all of a sudden something that really probably should have been included in the renovation is all of a sudden going to be an upcharge. So again, I see a bunch of other people joining right now. Again, let me know what questions you have when it comes to renovating properties. Most of you know I am on the acquisition side for my business. I don't actually participate in a lot of the actual renovation side, but I do know what goes on. So let me know what questions you guys have when it comes to renovating or fixing and flipping or anything related to real estate investing. So again, step 1, which to me is the most important step, is making sure that you know what level you're going to renovate the property to. Step 2 is to put together the complete scope of work. Step 3 is to get multiple bids. Getting multiple bids is extremely critical. And even if you have a crew of people that you feel like are giving you good prices, you want to make sure that you are comparing from time to time, because what we have noticed, typically what happens over the course of a long period of time, is that when people start to get busy, and I'm talking about contractors, but really this goes for any labor in general, when labor gets busy, the prices tend to go up. So when you first start working with somebody, the prices might be really, really good. And what typically happens over the course of time, as they start to get busier and busier, is they're less willing to do it for a lower price. So what you want to do is you always want to get multiple bids, and you always want to compare multiple bids to each other. Okay, so that's step number 3. Step number 4, again, hugely critical. There's not too many steps when it comes to renovating a property. These are the 5 most important things. Step number 4 is you need to get a signed agreement with expectations with every single item laid out, right? So anything that you don't put into a contract is going to become an upcharge at a later date. So it's extremely important that when you do the scope of work, that you then turn that into a signed agreement between you and the contractor that lays out everything. Who's responsible for the materials? Who's responsible for doing this? Who's responsible for doing that? The more that you can lay out, the better. For those of you who want to see what an agreement looks like between us and the contractors that we use, just type your email into the chat box, and I'll send you off what a signed agreement between us and our general contractors looks like. One thing I do want to mention on that side is that we do use general contractors for everything. So we don't try to sub out jobs ourselves. We like to get together a really good general contractor who can manage the job completely for ourselves, for themselves. So we want to make sure that we have a general contractor that can manage the electrical, that can manage the plumbing, that can manage the flooring, so that we only have one point person on any one particular job. A couple questions coming in from Natalie. At some point in the session, can we touch base on the sequence of order which you renovate, such as exterior first, then demo, clean, paint, interior, and so on? So Natalie, that's definitely a good point. And in our market, so it's kind of interesting. So right now we're in July. No, we're in August. Oh my God, we're at August 1st already. I'm thinking we're still in July. It's really critical in our market, probably in your market too, where the weather can change really quickly. We always want to make sure that as we're getting closer to winter, that we're getting that exterior work done as soon as possible. So there's not really necessarily an urge to do that really soon in the months where the weather is fairly nice. But once we start getting into November, December, we want to make sure that we can get the exterior done as soon as possible, because when the weather does change, that can completely uproot. I mean, that can completely change whether or not we can even do the exterior work. So other than that, obviously we want to make sure it depends on the job. So if it's a gut job, obviously we're going to completely, gut everything first. And if we are doing just kind of like a paint and carpet job, then the sequence is a little bit different. But it really depends more or less what type of job we're going to be doing, and also where our crews are at any one given point in time. So if a general contractor, can get a roofing guy out there on day one and the roof needs to be done, we're trying to get that done on day one. If not, it usually just comes down to scheduling to see who's available and when they're available. Katie, just about to do a quick lipstick and Band-Aid job because I can throw the house back on the market for a lower price in a too hot market and neighborhood. The thought being, when everything else is so darn expensive, offer something on the lower end when a buyer can slowly do the work themselves or later. Yeah, so the way that we do it now is we buy a property, we close on it, and we immediately just put it right back on the market, because what we're finding is that even investors are overpaying for deals. So if you're in a really super hot market, in a lot of cases, you can actually just put the property right back on the MLS and resell it and make the same profit that you are going to do without doing any work. So for us, that's always step one now. So step one, we're trying to see if we can just basically wholesale the deal and make the same margins or very close to it without us touching it. The second thing that we look at is, can we do, a lipstick job? And in a lot of cases in this market, we can. There are some instances where the property just needs way, way too much work. If it needs way too much work and we can't get away with doing, a light renovation, then we can't. In your market, it's probably a little bit different than our market. In the Boston market, typically speaking, the houses are anywhere from 100 to 120 years old on average. So there's less paint and carpet jobs, period. I'm going to assume that the properties in Asheville are probably built further, later, at a later date than like 1880 to 1920, which lends itself more to doing paint and carpet jobs. We actually just got off the phone with somebody that I'm working with one-on-one in Jacksonville, and we're thinking about doing some fix and flips there a little bit for buy and hold for us. So he fix and flips them, and we're considering buying some rental properties there. And he was telling me that you can basically put $10,000 or $15,000 into each property because of the fact that the properties on average were built from 1960 to 1980. So it's definitely a nice luxury to have. So any other questions, type them into the chat box. Do we always use the same GC? So we have about six to seven general contractors that we use. And because we typically are doing anywhere, it depends on the day, but typically anywhere from 20 to 40 projects at any one given time. So we can't just have one general contractor because it would be impossible for them to manage all of the volume. So typically speaking, we have anywhere from 6 to 7 general contractors, and depending on the GC, they can manage a lot of the volume that they can do varies dramatically. So some of our general contractors literally can only manage 1 or maybe 2 projects at a time, and then we have other ones that might be able to manage 3, 4, 5, 6 at a time. So it really depends, honestly, on the business acumen of the general contractor, but we have multiple general contractors that we use. It would definitely be nice to only have one, but yeah, not possible as of today. Yeah, Katie, our homes are mostly from the 20s and 40s. Okay, so yeah, so your houses are a little bit newer than ours, but not a ton newer. So cool. So all right, so getting back to the renovation. So you definitely have to sign the agreement, get the expectations set up front. And the final thing, which is critical if you've never managed a fix and flip before, is to make sure that you're funding the renovation in checkpoints. Meaning that if you're doing a $60,000 renovation, you can't give the general contractor $60,000 up front. We've been burnt quite a few times, unfortunately, with different either full jobs or small jobs where we've given the majority of the money up front, and then unfortunately you can't get that money back when they disappear, or it's very, very difficult to get that money back. So don't make the same mistake that I've made. You want to give as small of an upfront money as you can. And as you get to know the contractor and they do good work for you, it's not as much of an issue. But typically speaking, at a minimum, we want to fund the job in thirds. So if it's a $60,000 renovation, we're going to do $20,000, $20,000, and $20,000. So you want to make sure that for sure you're not giving all of the money up front, because you just never know what can possibly happen. When it comes to contractors in general, there's a lot of unpredictability there. People disappear. Contractors decide that they want to fix and flip. Contractors decide that they're making more money doing, kitchens and baths for a typical homeowner, and they're not as interested in doing the volume work for you at a discount. So it is definitely a process. It is a trial and error process. There is no foolproof way to screen contractors on day one to know that they're going to work out. So we always recommend that if you're newer to the business, start out doing a really small job. Don't start out doing a $100,000 fix and flip on your first project. do a very, very small fix and flip to start. If you can do one where you're just painting and you're just doing carpets and you can keep it really simple, you'll definitely do much better. You'll fare much better, and you'll also be able to build up your contracting crews over the course of time rather than having to hire 20 people on day one. So let me know what other questions you guys have. I mean, we're talking about rehabbing, how to rehab a property, but I'm definitely open to answering any other questions related to marketing or sales or anything related to real estate investing in general. David Pax is on. Thank you for jumping on. He's on every single day. He has probably no interest in fixing and flipping whatsoever, but he's a friend of mine, and I think he just likes looking at me. So thank you, David, for hopping on. So whatever other questions anyone has, type them into the chat box. I'm live every day at 4 p.m. Half the time we will do a strategy session with somebody that I've never met with before. We were slated to have Mike Morgan on today, but he had some technical difficulties, and it looks like he's not going to jump on at this point. But for anyone that does want to jump on one of these live strategy sessions at 4 p.m., what we do is we just jump on live just like this, and we go on Zoom conference. And we talk about kind of where you're at right now in your real estate investing career, where you want to go, and then we put together an action plan, a strategy session on how to get there. So Jack, cosmetic repairs, the bath and kitchen. Yeah, if you can do one minor like that, it definitely is helpful. So if you guys have any other questions, by the way, after watching this video, just type them into the comment section. But if not, like I said, I'm live every day at 4 p.m. either doing a strategy session with somebody who's on the call, or doing just a live topic like this. So Jack, what about leaving the tub and tile and fixing it up, refacing cabinets that are otherwise in good condition? So it all boils down, Jack, to what is selling in your market, which is why you definitely want to go and check out the open houses and see what things are selling for in your market and what the condition of the properties are. So in every neighborhood, in every market, that's a little bit different. So in your neighborhood, if you're able to do that, then absolutely I would, because once you start ripping out cabinets and you start, completely redoing the bath, that changes the scope of the renovation, and it's going to require more money, and therefore you're going to have to get more money for that property. And in your market, if the buyers in your market don't put a premium on that and you do it, you're going to end up losing money on that. So I would definitely see if that's what's happening in your current market, and then just renovating it to the level that's selling. I remember actually we were doing full gut renovations on everything going back 3 or 4 years. And I only noticed, I wasn't even aware myself, the condition of what things were selling for. I wasn't doing this homework that I'm talking about. But what ended up happening is, because I own a real estate brokerage, other agents were telling me what was selling, meaning like that things did not have to be fully renovated to get top dollar. And that's what ended up kind of making me rethink about how the level that we were renovating properties to. So yeah, I mean, just those 5 things are the most important things, and just make sure you do them every single time, and you'll get much, much better results. So again, I will be on again tomorrow at 4 p.m. and I appreciate you guys jumping on, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.